Welcome to the second of our two installments on connected and interconnected. And now we're going to talk about the solutions to the problems we described and discussed in our first episode. Again, I've got with me Paul Brown. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Alan.
We understand the problems which are caused by this complexity within the new design paradigms, these connected and interconnected products. What can we do to help us find a problem, a solution space for the problem?
Well, I think the first thing that companies need to start doing and are doing is, as I mentioned in the first episode, is actually look at this in a more systematic manner, using a systems-based approach where you can break down and feed information from requirements into the various disciplines and use that to validate that you're solving the problem. And I think being able to clearly communicate not just the individual, like here are the mechanical challenges, specifications, here are the electronic specifications, but actually make sure that they're visible and that they're interconnected, I think is one of the first steps that people can do. Is start looking at it as more of a systems and a systems of systems type approach to the design processes.
Right, so break down complexity into smaller units, use systems engineering to try and manage this complexity that we're now in. How about the collaboration between people? How about this sort of old paradigm that we have groups that are doing electronics, we have groups that are doing software, groups that are doing physical design?
I think that's another area where companies have to look at how they want to structure on projects and on products and blur those lines and connect the dots together. Because you're absolutely right, no matter what you do with technology, if you have barriers of people, departmental barriers, you're going to struggle to implement any change. I mean, I think that's one of those areas where people are becoming more accepting that this complexity needs a different answer, and working together as multidisciplinary teams, bringing people in earlier in the loop, I think is another key element that people are recognizing the need for.
Right. So, I mean, obviously part of it, as you just mentioned, very important to get the people working together and look at new ways, new efficiencies from collaboration within between the groups and the people. What about the tools, though? I mean, there must be something the tools can add to this technology.
Oh, massively. I think the tools are key. One thing I would say is, each of those disciplines uses the tools that are best for their job. I think trying to take something that's a product, that's a tool that's been designed to help somebody do mechanical design, and then saying, okay, that tool is going to do electrical design, that's not going to work. I mean,
right.
Because there are already established tools around that each of these groups are using. The critical part there is connecting them together.
Right.
Connecting them together closely, not just translating data, throwing data over the wall in different formats, but having an interconnectivity such that you can do that tracing. When I mentioned, tracing requirements through the process, being able to pick, maybe if you've got an electrical schematic, pick the line on the schematic and see how it relates to the PCB track or the wire in the wire harness, being able to see those pieces of information.
Right. I suppose when we talk about this, the new world of automation, I mean, everybody talks about automation. Computers are great about doing things which are just mundane. And I suppose a lot of this is about doing stuff which is extremely mundane, people find very laborious, and you could throw lots of bodies at it, but that isn't the way to do it. You need to have the software automate these processes.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is being able to give tools that make it simple. The minute you make it more difficult for any one of those individuals to do their job, I originally trained as a designer, and one of the most frustrating things you can hear is that you've got to spend an extra 10 minutes doing this because it helps somebody further down the pipe, because at the end of the day, people are asking you to deliver your job on time, and so what you've got to do is make it easy to do this interconnectivity, easy to pass the information around, and easy to trace it. So so as you get a win for everybody. You put in barriers up and say, okay, well, somebody else is going to do. It's going to take them longer to do their job because it's going to make somebody else, a bit quicker. Is probably not going to be an easy sell to actually start implementing the technologies. So.
And I suppose one of the things certainly that I've noticed in technologies from companies like yours is the fact that these new types of IT systems and software embed a lot of knowledge. Things that were generically lost in the organization are now embedded and stored for future generations of projects. And I mean, that's something I think, credit to companies like yours for doing.
Yeah, I think that the whole idea of being able to capture that intelligence, embed it, and then replay it, and make it, the days when we used to have tools that were just simply responsive all the time are long gone. Now we're actually, as you say, harnessing the power that we have in compute power, harnessing tools like cloud computing to be able to bring in more smarter ways of approaching the problem and bring embedded intelligence to the fore, such that you can replay and you know not just kind of industry knowledge but also company knowledge, such that you can capture and replay individual companies' information. So.
Sort of a true advisory service as opposed to a responsive and, no, this is wrong. It's more a case of this is how you might want to do this, so it's right.
Yeah, and being able to give you advice about maybe on a PCB board that this component is either too close to the edge because of what we need to do, and when we run the path to it, or maybe it's in a no-go zone or too close to something mechanical, such that you can package things correctly, but with the inherent knowledge that's been built up over the years, and be able to replay that.
Great. So finally, if you were to give some sage words of advice to companies who wanted to investigate more of this, what would you say to people?
Well, I think that one of the first things when we started is that they need to look at the way that their people and their teams are working together, and find from them where they see the breakdowns in communication. We have tools that are interconnect. We look at the way we can interconnect mechanical with electrical, with software, and tie those together. But it's really a case of take a step back, look at that, look at what their current tool sets do, and how well connected they are, and then maybe just think about how they could be where the connections that they need to get, and that's when they can start evaluating what the next steps are. Is look at that connectivity, look at the people and how their people are tied together and communicate.
Great, thank you for that, Paul. So I mean, I think we've heard some really interesting viewpoints, and I think in particular it's not just about the technology, it's also about the people and how one relates to the people. Thank you very much, Paul, for coming in and talking to me. I hope you found this interesting. For more information, Paul's details and my details will follow this video.